So now that we learned about the product and we learned a little bit about branding, the next topic would be, well, what is a new product? So a new product is a product that is new for the company, meaning that the company itself never offered that product before. It can also be a product that's new for the customers, meaning that the target market never actually got these products before. So new product development refers basically to original products. So those are new products that did not exist in the market. Those can be improvement on existing products, modification on existing products, and actually new brands developed from the firm's own research and development. So when we talk in this scenario about new products, we discuss products that are totally new and that are the production of the company itself. So then let's look at an example. How do we define what is a new product? So the outmost new product will be what we call truly innovative. So when the telephone was created, the original telephone at the time, that was a totally, truly innovative product. People before could not have communicated with each other unless they saw each other face to face. So the telephone was a product that is called truly innovative. There is no other alternative in the market that actually did that benefit. Then we have the first cell phone. The first cell phone is what we call a replacement because it replaced the truly innovative product, which was the telephone. But it's still about communicating with people, but it offers maybe better quality, better technology, and also the fact of anytime, anywhere. Then we can look at Motorola. Motorola at the time was imitation of rivals. So the company actually created a cell phone that was new for the company and for maybe its consumers, but it was not new to the market in the sense that it was an imitation of a product that already exists in the market. Then we can also think of new products in the sense of new service. So new delivery methods are considered also new products, like online banking, for example, like E-Trade versus traditional banking, or online insurance like Geico versus traditional insurance companies. So these are the stages where the new product actually needs to go through in order to be developed. So we will now go over them one by one. So the first stage is idea generation. Idea generation is when the company knows that they need to have new products, but they're not sure yet what these products should be. So if you remember the BCG, you remember the question mark. So the question mark is something that companies say, we need something in the question mark box. We need new products that later on will become stars, because otherwise we will go backwards. But what are these new products? We are not sure. So the source of new product ideas can come from internal sources as well as external sources. The internal sources will be the company's own formal search and development. So a lot of companies have an R&D department. The R&D department's purpose is to develop ideas for new products. The external sources could be outside of the company. It can actually be your own customers. Customers are a very resourceful source in order to get new ideas. They usually will have very good product development and modification ideas, but sometimes also ideas for completely new products. Competitors is also a source of new products, and this will be where we imitate maybe the competition or offer a similar thing, but better. Distributors, suppliers, and basically any other outside sources can be considered as good external sources. The purpose of idea generation is to create a large number of ideas. Why? Because it's very difficult to find a good new product. So we want to start with a lot in order to minimize it to a few. So the purpose of the next stage, which is idea screening, is to reduce the number of those many ideas into only a few. Once we have reduced it to a few, then we have to try to test the concept. Meaning, at this stage, we are not actually creating the product, but we want to know how the market might react to it. So a product concept is basically a detailed version of the idea that we can start to talk about in meaningful consumer terms. So we will talk about the image, we will talk about the positioning, we will talk about maybe how it's going to look or feel, and we want to see if it makes sense to our consumers. Then once we decide on that, we need to think, well, how are we actually going to market this new product? Again, at this point, we actually don't have a product yet, because we want to make sure that we see value in this product and that we will be able to message and send that value to our consumers. So this is the initial marketing strategy that will help us understand how to introduce the product to the market. Then we want to also talk about, well, who will be the target market? Are we going to use the same target market, or are we going to go to a new target market? As we mentioned before, this can be a different strategy. We also want to know, well, what is going to be the positionings? What are the expected sales? So we need to make a prediction based on the existing target market. We need to talk about market share. How is it actually going to be in relation to competition? And we need to see, well, what is our profit goals? What do we expect that question mark to actually do? Then we have to talk about other components of the marketing mix, like the price that we're going to charge, the distribution we're going to use, and what budget do we have to actually develop and market this product. We then talk about long-term sales and long-term profit goals and the actual marketing mix strategy. The fifth stage is now the business analysis. So here we are actually looking at what it's going to cost us to make the product, how much sales we expect to have, and how much profit we are expecting to have. And the whole idea is to make sure that the profit actually satisfies the company's objectives. Then, only then, we actually develop the product. So that the actual development of the product only happens at the sixth stage, which might be not intuitive to many people. So the product development involves the creation and testing of one or more physical versions by the R&D or the engineering department. And here we actually need to put money in because obviously it's going to be an investment. This is what we call a prototype. And once we have the product, the prototype, we can do test marketing. Test marketing is marketing research. So this is where we do exploratory research. We're trying to see if the market is actually going to like the new product. So here we're going to maybe do focus groups, or maybe we're going to put it in a few retail stores to see how the market is going to respond to the new product. So when, though, should I test my product? So I should test my products, especially when my new product requires a large investment of money, because we do not want to have a failed new product. However, if the product does not require a lot of money spent, sometimes it's cheaper and easier to actually produce the product, send it to the market, and if it fails, it fails, because marketing research is not free either. The other reason we want to do test marketing is when we are uncertain about either the product or the way we want to position it. And we need the input of consumers. We want consumers' insight to basically tell us what they think is the best positioning of the product. Now, when should I not do test marketing? Maybe if it's a simple line extension. If I create Coke Zero instead of a Diet Coke, I might not need to actually do a test marketing. If I'm copying or imitating a competitor's product, I don't have to really test market the product itself. I need to just test the marketing strategy. When creating the product, as we mentioned, is not that expensive and actually might be cheaper than actually doing marketing research. And then when management feel very confident that they have a winner, that they have a good product, and then again, maybe we are not as hesitant to put it in the market. And finally, we have commercialization. This is when we actually introduce the new product to the market. And here we need to make the decision, when are we going to launch the new product? Sometimes a lot of companies will like to do it when there's peak shopping, like maybe Christmas or other types of holidays. We want to know where to launch. Are we going to do it in big cities, in small cities, where there's a lot of our target market concentrated, or maybe only a few? And then we also want to know how the market strategy is going to roll out. So what kind of promotion we're going to do, what's going to come first, which retailers or distributors are going to have the product first, and so on. Now, one of the things that we want to talk about is how product life cycle and new products actually come together. So a product life cycle is the course that a product sales and profits take over its lifetime. So we have sales and profits right here, and then we have time. Now, most products will follow this life cycle. We will start when there's no time, meaning the product is just introduced to the market. This will be the product development stage. We do not expect to actually have any sales and definitely no profits. Then we go to the introduction stage. The introduction stage is when the product is now out in the market and the marketing mix is already in action. We do expect to see some increase in sales to show us that the marketing strategy is working. However, we still have no profit because we invest a lot of money in the marketing strategy. When we go into the growth stage, we expect a high growth in sales. We also start to hope to see positive profits. And then we reach what we call the maturity. The maturity stage could be a flat line and can actually last for many, many years. That is when I don't have to spend a lot of money in marketing mix, but my sales are relatively consistent. This will be a cash cow example, and this will be a star example, and this will be a question mark example. And then we have the decline. The decline is when basically the product starts to phase out. It could be because new competitors come in, because new technology is coming in, or because we did not have a lot of marketing strategy efforts invested in these products and people start to forget that the product exists. Here, there is starting to be also a decline in profit. Now, what kind of strategies can a marketer do when they have the product life cycle and introducing a new product? So we want to modify our marketing strategy depending on how we want to penetrate the market. So if we want to penetrate new users, new target market, let's say men who use disposable razor, that was a new market for those disposable razors. So those will be new users. That will be an introduction for that specific target market, even though the product itself might be in a mature stage in another target market. What if we want to increase huge usage of existing users? So we want them to replace the razor blades every few weeks. So then we want to introduce that idea that there's an expiration date on razors, and we want to see how that takes off. And then we also have a completely new market segment, like when Gillette was appealing for women. So all of those can be new product life cycle for these products just because they are new to the users that are actually using them, even though the product itself can be in different stages of life cycle depending which target market it serves. So marketing mix then needs to be modified depending on what the strategy is. So later on, we're going to talk about price, promotion, and distribution. And we will see how those decisions will be changed depending on where the product is in its life cycle. Before we end this session, I want to discuss unique types of life cycle. One is what we call a special product. A special product is when a product is bought because of a style. So that can be like art for example, or a specific designer. Those usually will have very strong increase in growth and maybe almost no introduction. And then they will fluctuate with maturity depending on what the trend is or what the style is. Then we have fashion. Fashion is also a special life cycle, and it's usually accepted very fast and then dies very quickly. So again, we expect it to be very rapid and actually almost have no introduction stage. And finally, we have the fads. The fads are temporary periods of unusually high sales driven by consumer enthusiasm. So those will be things that, everybody is now doing the Pokemon. Everybody is collecting cards. Everybody is doing that, and then within a few months or a year, it actually dies and never comes back again.